Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Isaiah from Player Development. As you all know, I'm trying out for a semi pro basketball team, and one thing that I talked about that I really need to work on is my conditioning. And one thing I've also talked about is that I really hate running. So, what I'm trying to do is get in shape, but see if there's any way to do that without running. And so, what I did was I called my friend Jackson, wanted to see if he had any insights about if there's some way that I can get in better shape, be able to run, be able to condition without doing the exercise that I hate most, which is just straight running. So I called him up. Let's see what he says. Hey Jackson, what's up?
Hey Isaiah, how's it going?
Hey, thanks for joining me today. So, for the benefit of the people at home, let us know like what you do and what you're about, man.
Yeah, so I started Lohr Sports Performance about 2 years ago, coming out of Liberty University as an athletic trainer, kind of working with the strength and conditioning staff there. I've been at this about 2 years, really working with athletes who are trying to get back from injury and really increase their performance and stay injury free long term. I think that's a really key component to sports performance. So that's kind of what I'm doing.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for hopping on this call because I've got a question for you that hopefully is not unique to me. But so I'm trying out for the semi pro basketball team. And one of the keys that they emphasized was being in shape. And I'm in like pickup basketball shape, but I'm not in like semi pro
Right.
basketball shape. But the problem is like I hate running, man. So is there any way for me to work on my conditioning without having to just run?
Right. Yeah, and that's a big question for a lot of people because no one really enjoys running, and if you do, you know, I'm not going to say anything, but it takes a special kind of
Mm.
person to enjoy
Yeah, and
running
I'm
that
not
much.
that kind of person.
What I will say is running, especially in most team sports, has no real replacement. Right?
Hmm.
You think about the specificity principle or the SAID principle. You're going to get a specific adaptation to those imposed demands. So if
Mm.
you're going to be running, playing basketball, you're going to have to find ways that you can run
Hmm.
because you're going to get that particular adaptation to running. That being said, there are ways you can do that that doesn't necessarily, just back and forth where you just feel like you're dying.
Yeah.
And so, the things that I think of is just making it interesting, right?
Okay.
So I got this probably from either Joey Burgles or some other coach, maybe Chris Corfist, where okay, you use different restraints or different small adaptations each time you're doing something. So maybe the first set you do where you're running with both arms, right? Just normal
Hmm.
sprinting. Maybe on the next down and back, you can't use one arm. So now I'm focusing more on this arm, focusing
Uh-huh.
more on adapting to the running pattern, having your body adapt to different challenges. And now I'm thinking less about the conditioning part that
Hmm.
sucks. I'm thinking more about, all right, what am I doing with my arms? In a different level
Yeah.
where they're thinking more about form, they're thinking more about
Hmm.
stability, keeping those hips going straight
Uh-huh.
forward and back. And so you have, different ways that you can mix it up to make it interesting,
Hmm.
right? So there's different things you can do just with the running
Right.
itself that makes it interesting, keeps it from being just vanilla conditioning,
Hmm.
right? Another thing that you can do is just gamify it, right? So the best conditioning is going to be the most specific, just like we were just talking about that specific adaptation
Hmm.
principle, right? You want to go back and forth. Somebody is chasing you down. You train with buddies.
Hmm.
You have somebody chase you down, try and you know swat the ball away
Hmm.
as you're making a layup or as you are just going down there trying to poke it out. Play those different
Yeah.
scenarios, and that's going to be a way where you're gonna be so focused on what you're doing
Hmm.
that you're not going to be worried so much about the running itself. Uh, and that competitive drive changes the way that we perceive that conditioning stimulus, right?
Hmm.
If you're doing something fun, you're not as interested. We've all been played capture the flag
Right.
before or something like that, which is another great way to gamify conditioning, right? If you have a group of people, you can get together and do something like that where everybody's focused on the task at hand and not as focused
Hmm.
on, oh frick, this is killing
Yeah.
my lungs right now.
Hmm.
So yeah, gamifying it. But yeah, I'd say for running specific, those are just some examples of ways
Yeah.
that you can mix it up. But like you said, not everybody likes running, and sometimes it is nice to change it up and not have to run all the time. Plus, running can be, especially if you're on like hard basketball
Hmm.
courts, or if you're playing on cement, different surfaces, that can be pretty hard on the joints. As far as other options, moving away from running a little bit,
Hmm.
the low hanging fruit is machine work, right? You have
Mm.
your steady state machine cardio. You can do
Right.
different intervals. I'm not going to go deep into that because everybody kind of knows,
Yeah.
you know, okay, you can hop on your machine of choice and get some cardio in and
Hmm.
get some conditioning in. Yeah. You can get on those machines, hit those proper time intervals, and
Hmm.
train that way. I'm a big fan of ropes.
Okay.
So you have kind of your two different types. So you've got your battle ropes, right?
Hmm.
Which are great for interval conditioning, right? If I throw somebody on battle ropes, even a beginner can get through 15 or 20 seconds
Hmm.
of just quick conditioning for that, like anaerobic energy systems, whether you're doing, straight up and
Hmm.
down, two at once, out to the side. You got a lot of options there. Again, a really good option for some people. For some people, it just feels really powerful,
Yeah.
and running doesn't feel that way to a lot of
Hmm.
people. So that's a good option to explore with conditioning. So jump ropes are a combat athlete's conditioning of choice for a lot of people,
Hmm.
and you see them in a fight because they're bouncing a lot. They need that stiffness. They need that like readiness on their feet. And I like it because you can do that, like the LSD, the long slow distance,
Hmm.
uh, with a jump rope where you're just kind of slowly going in and taking care of just the slow and easy
Hmm.
jumps. That also gets you, especially for jumping athletes like volleyball, basketball, that sort of thing. You're developing that stiffness in your tendons,
Hmm.
and using those tendons properly. That you don't necessarily get with a lot of other forms of conditioning, right?
Mm.
If I'm high speed sprinting, I get that, but most other running, it's muscle. Uh, it's more muscle heavy. It's less tendon heavy, right? And
Mhm.
so you get that tendon training, that stiffness training in the ankle from like a light jump rope that you wouldn't get from other forms of conditioning. For you, that might be a really good option.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's you have some options there. As far as on the far end of things, so now we're probably the furthest from running itself.
Mhm.
You've got kind of your carries, right? So I can
Uh,
pick up
mhm.
dumbbells, hop on either a track or a treadmill, and just walk as far as I can.
Mhm.
And again, I'm not getting that explosive running that I'm getting, but you do get a really good cardio effect from that.
Mhm.
That one can be a really good option for people, and
Mhm.
it's rucking.
Yeah.
Um, Sleds is an option that I really
Oh,
like.
yeah.
So throwing some weight on a sled, and again, this is kind of you figure out what energy system you're going after that session,
Mhm.
or for that block, whatever it is that may be your weakness, and choose your weight and intensity accordingly.
Mm.
Right? If I'm going after if my weakness is the sprints where I need to tackle, low weight, high intensity sprinting,
Mhm.
I might only throw 40 pounds on a sled and have people just push as hard as they can,
Mhm.
and do 20-yard max kind of thing, or throw as much weight on there as humanly possible and just push until you can't
Mhm.
in that realm,
Yeah.
right? That's going to get you your most long term results on the aerobic end.
Mm.
Plus, you're going to get a crazy strength stimulus from that,
Yeah.
and that's right. That's full bodies because you're pushing. you're having to stabilize on the upper body, but you're also
Mm-hmm.
grinding through that at the lower body.
Yeah.
It's kind of the last thing that I'd include in the realm of like conditioning is
Mm-hmm.
just your intensity and rest ratios when you're lifting, right?
Okay.
If I'm lifting super heavy and say I'm in the like 80% and above,
Mm-hmm.
80% and above on like my 1 rep max,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm doing 4 or 5 reps, and my rest intervals are less than say 45 seconds, we'll say, for
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get a pretty significant conditioning stimulus. My lifts aren't going to be great after like the second
Mm.
set, but you're going to get a pretty significant. I mean, your heart's going to be going. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
be breathing heavy. You're going to get that conditioning stimulus. A lot of athletes, the big thing is speed and power more than anything,
Mm-hmm.
and so I don't want to make athletes slower,
Sure.
and don't want to make them weaker by doing something like that. So I typically avoid that, but there are situations where it could be called for.
Got it. Well, thank you so much for your insights. That is super helpful, and I'll be sure to start incorporating some of that into my own training. Um, so Jackson's at loresports.com. I'll include the link in the description. And if you're in Harrisonburg, Virginia, go ahead and give him a call, set up a meeting, and see what he can do to help you reach your goals as well.